Hi and welcome to the SohoLIFF Spotlight. I'm Liz Farahadi and I'm delighted to be joined today with Elias Suhail, who has brought a fabulous film to us called Beneath a Mother's Feet. And I mean, this is a really special film.
Oh, thank you.
So it's a very personal story to you, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Do you mind elaborating on that?
Not at all. The story's loosely inspired, I would say, by my mother's experience of, as a young single mother in Morocco, she found herself at a difficult crossroads in her life. She was living back home with her parents in their modest one-room bungalow with two very young children. As the sole carer for those children, and she saw no prospects for herself, so she took the drastic decision one day to escape her life and she left her children behind, and so this is a story that was this was actually my half brother and half sister, so before she eventually relocated to the UK and had me and my brother. But it's a story that was sort of recounted to me. It preceded my coming into this world, but it was during the lockdown that I started, I think, reflecting on the past and the sort of ripple effects from the past, what effect they've sort of had, through time to the present day. And it was at that point that I started putting pen to paper and trying to make something tangible out of a familial narrative which had always felt very abstract to me in many respects. Yeah. I just thought there were some interesting themes to explore in this story as well. So just trying to imagine what the lead up to that moment of departure would have looked like. In many ways.
Was it a therapeutic process?
Yeah, total therapy. I think it started life as a feature film idea, because the second part of that story is her finding herself in the UK, a single mother again with two very young children, me and my brother. So it was sort of this narrative sort of repeated itself. When she thought she was sort of escaping her predicament in search of a better future for herself, and hopefully, I think the intention there was to, better herself in some ways, and then reunite with her children back home. But so it was, I condensed this story into, a few days. It was definitely therapeutic.
And how was your mother about it when you said to her, I'm going to make a film about this?
My mother was very supportive in many respects, I think. She's always told me, because I've long had ambitions of writing and directing, and she's always said, you need to make a story of my life. Because she's had such a roller coaster sort of existence, I think, always facing obstacles and then somehow overcoming them, but overcoming adversity. There's sort of this, she was very positive, but there are some elements of the film, I think there are certain scenes in the film where she's like, it didn't happen exactly like that, the conversation, I wasn't wearing that dress, I was quite modern in my look, all these sorts of details. I was like, it is, there's a lot of embellishment in my own story. It's set in the present day, obviously. Politically as well, they would have the nuances, of this being in the 70s would have been very different than it is today as well.
Yeah.
And she was also much younger actually than I portrayed in the film. Yeah, so that was another layer. But
and was it actually shot in Morocco?
It was, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Casablanca.
Oh, lovely.
So it was actually my first time in Casablanca.
Really?
Yeah, so and I fell in love with the city.
Were there many challenges with filming over there?
I mean, there were challenges, but overall, I think more went right than wrong, sort of thing.
So good.
And I think we were lucky enough to have worked with this incredible production company that are based in Casablanca called Montfleury. And it's headed up by a filmmaker, producer in his own right, called Saeed Hamish, and they facilitated the production for us and basically just looked after us incredibly well. So I'm sure there were many obstacles, especially I think they were slightly nervous about filming in real markets. There were lots of variables that could have just gone wrong, but I think the line producer Hajar said that it felt like something was protecting the production. I think she was carrying a lot of there was a lot of burden on her in many respects, but she just shielded us from all of that, I think.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so it was actually an incredibly, I don't know, also I felt so privileged to be in that position after so many years of wanting to make a film. And then so there were some challenges, we had to cut scenes and losing time here and there, but it was fine.
Is this your first film?
First film, first film.
Wow.
Yeah. But after many years of procrastinating and wanting to make a film,
I would not have picked this as a first film at all.
Oh, that's very kind.
It's quite blown me away.
Oh, thank you.
So it's a really interesting dynamic that you've got going on with the parents in the film as well. How did you go about casting them?
All the actors, apart from Nisreen Adam, who's the lead, were basically street cast. They're non-professional actors. Yeah. So we, again, Montfleury facilitated the casting sessions for us. We were quite specific that we wanted to find people who would just, live normal lives. Hopefully people who resonated with the characters that they were playing on a personal level to some degree. So actually and a lot of the dialogue was actually it was all improvised. I mean, there was I met with all of the actors. We had some rehearsals prior to shooting, and then just before we started rolling camera, I would meet with them individually and say, talk to them about how we kind of wanted to shape the conversation, but they all identified with the characters they were playing, and I think that really helped create three-dimensional characters, because I don't think one of the things I didn't want to do was sort of create sort of caricatures of these people, so.
But I mean, it was really the mother is more of the protagonist, isn't she? And the father sort of takes more of a back seat.
Yes.
But did you sort of encourage them to do that? Did you engineer that? Or was that just something that happened through the improv?
I think it was interesting because my grandparents, I think Moroccan women are very strong-willed in many respects, especially the women in my family, and so I did have this kind of image in my head about that dynamic, but it just played out naturally as well. I think the Fatiha Zween, who plays Widad's mother Rahma, that was her personality, and so it was a natural thing that came, and we paired the different actors with each other when we were casting as well, just to see how they would interact. So I think we could kind of see what the dynamics might be there as well,
right,
during that phase, and it just felt right.
You must have really, I mean, honestly, to be able to create an environment where they were safe to be able to do that, because it was so natural and it was so real. It's fabulous.
Thanks a lot.
I have to ask as well, there's quite an obvious absence of the father.
Yes.
Was that purposeful?
It was, because I wanted it to be a story about this mother figure in the film, Widad, and I think that I think if I were to, it was a conscious decision. I think we only have 15 minutes in the end, so there could have been something, he could have been introduced more perhaps, but
it felt important though that it was just
it was exactly, it's her experience,
her on her own.
exactly,
I mean, let's be honest. It's like, you know, for children, fathers leaving, it's been really normalised, hasn't it? No one bats an eyelid.
Yeah.
But you know, for like a woman, it's like, oh, how could she? Or, you know, so giving that space to show where she was at is really powerful.
Absolutely, yeah. That was the other thing as well. Exactly that. Just, I feel like it's almost a taboo to think of a mother leaving the children, whereas it's so. It's almost normalised thinking of fathers not being part of the picture somehow.
Yeah.
But for a mother to do that, and also I'm a father to 2 children myself. I have 2 young daughters, aged 10 and 8. And just the thought of leaving them, for me as a father, it feels almost impossible. You know, my mother was incredibly, you know, doting and loving towards us. So I know this wouldn't have been a decision that, you know, was easy for her. So I wanted to try and understand what, you know, how the pain she must have experienced as well. Because also it's a decision that carried with it a lot of. There was a lot of sort of stigma attached to it, I think, and a lot of guilt, and so in a way it was sort of maybe on some subconscious level trying to advocate for my mother and all single mothers in those sorts of predicaments, you know, that it's not trying to absolve anything, but just to try and present a scenario that's really complicated and maybe it's difficult to pass judgment, you know, to take a certain a hard moral stance on it, because it's, you know, it's just difficult. It's really hard. You know, what is the right thing to do in a situation like that?
No. It really. I mean, you don't like watching it. You feel as complicated and kind of you're there with her. I have to ask, because obviously it's your mother's story, but obviously this has got to have been something that, you know, is carried with you as well. I mean, has it been a difficult journey for you as well?
I think the only way I could make this film was by sort of embellishing a little bit. So it has been it has been quite therapeutic on some level, but I think it's also, I think I had to change it enough so that I could actually get it made, because I think being so close to it almost felt not paralysing, but just it's a story I always wanted to tell, but I think being so close to it so hard to be objective in any way, you know, to actually bring it to life. But
and, I mean, you are covering so many challenging topics as well. I mean, it's depression, despair, your mental health. I mean, it's really, they're not easy subjects, but you've managed to take those on, and somehow you've managed to make it really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, I mean, all thanks to the DOP on the film, I think, Will Hankey, who I'd worked with in a completely different capacity, but because I work in the industry, but I have worked in the film and TV industry for a number of years, behind the scenes in the sort of the back rooms.
What have you been doing?
Spanning all kinds of roles, but production management, before that, career coordinating, production coordinating, and then the last almost 10 years now post supervising. Cool. So that helped in terms of understanding processes and navigating all of that. That wasn't.
That's getting some good foundations in, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But being on the other side of, actually directing and writing, that was completely. I realised there were a lot of gaps in my knowledge during making this film. That I thought, this is going to be. It should be pretty straightforward, but actually it was a huge learning curve for me. But guided by more experienced people, Will Hankey, the DOP, being one of them. And he's incredible. He has an incredible eye. I owe him a lot.
The cinematography is fabulous.
Yeah, he's very talented.
When you were doing this and building the script and that, did you talk to a lot of other women who had this experience as well, or did you keep it just your mum's experience?
No, to be honest, it was just my mother's experience. I was just trying to. I hadn't really done much research because it was so specific. It was such a specific story for me. That I mean, but I did. I mean, what I think I did do was infuse the film with my own observations of the women around me. My wife, for example, when she was pregnant with our children, I saw the changes her body was going through, and so I, you know, all these like little things I was trying to, you know, somehow infuse into the film. And then it did go through some development programs, and there was some, you know, there was a script editor actually on this BFI network short film development program that I was part of, and the script editor on that program was expecting her first child as well, and she was incredibly it was. I did receive some feedback and you know, some critical feedback, which was really useful.
Working with script editors is incredibly useful.
Definitely. She recommended a book to me called I think it was Laura E. Marks, called The Skin of the Film. And that was an incredible, like, just in terms of actually, because I'd only really started down this creative path during the pandemic, and that was incredibly eye-opening as a creative who comes from a sort of intercultural background, being half Moroccan, half English, and, you know, never quite feeling that I'm fully embedded in either one culture, always feeling sort of on the outside looking in. It was an incredible book for me to read that on a number of different levels. But yeah,
I'm going to have to check this out.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I think we have to wrap up now, annoyingly. but what would you like people to take away from this film?
I would like people to. I always just think about, actually, nothing in particular. I want people to apply, you know, have their own interpretation of things. I had very specific ideas when writing it around some of the like metaphors and symbolism in the film, but it's been really interesting to me hearing other people's takes on certain things as well.
Right.
So I don't like talking too much about like the specifics of like why that, you know, the eel scene or whatever, you know, the birthing scene.
Yeah, I was going to ask, but then I thought, no, I won't, because that's so like, it's a bit magical.
But there is a lot of Moroccan allegory and superstition within the film, so the henna, all these things are very like, I had my own specific ideas about it, but I like to write in the way that some of my favourite authors write. I would never compare myself to them, but just certain things, you know, I don't always understand everything in the works of writers like Toni Morrison, for example, but she's writing with real cultural specificity.
Yeah.
And it's up to the audience to kind of do a little bit of the work to try and either apply their own interpretation to certain things or go away and try and work out like what the significance of that is.
Yeah.
And then Layla Lalami as well, who Toni Morrison is a big inspiration for as well. So so I wouldn't want to say you have to think about this or these were my intentions. Just I'm always interested to hear how people have reacted.
Oh, fabulous. I think you're going to be having a lot of people coming in and talking to you about
Great,
it after.
I hope so.
Yeah. And I mean, what's this inspired you to do next?
Still writing. I'm developing some projects. Yeah, it's a long process, but yeah, I have a few ideas that are in their early genesis phases at the moment. But yeah, hopefully it will lead on to some other opportunities. Yeah, we'll see.
Amazing.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing you in January.
Thank you, me too.
And you have to see this film, Beneath a Mother's Feet. It really is really special. So that will be in the festival, January 2025. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks so
so much.